Thank you so much for joining us. That was awesome, Luke. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for your pointedness and directness. It was beautiful to listen. So
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, we have some questions.
Okay.
So you guys have brought in some questions. Thank you so much for texting that number, and we're going to ask some questions now.
Okay.
So the first one I have for you is, how can we bridge the gap to really be missionaries encountering culture, so not really to rock their reality or the truth that they follow? So how do we kind of navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind there is I think we need relationship. And I think because we live in such a media-focused age, we imagine that the way we're going to best do this is through media, whether that's through mass media or through social media. We think about it being a lot about what I'm going to post or what I'm going to tweet or what I'm going to...
Right.
But a lot of this really happens through relationship. And I think the missing ingredient, which is weird when you think about a missionary, you know, a lot of our missionary encounters should happen relationally. And so I think as you get to know people and as you get into relationships, you see the places where they're doing things that they don't even realize are the way God made them. And you point that out. And you say, hey, that thing you're doing, like, that's actually how God made you to be. Like, that's a really great thing. And then you also start to see inconsistencies where it's like someone says, well, I want this. But you start to realize, well, the way you're trying to pursue it, you're never going to have it. And then you can point those out in relationships. So when you talk about bridging gaps, and maybe there's another part of that question I didn't hear, but that's what I think is what bridges it is relationships.
Yeah, that's huge. That's great. Another question, a little different topic, but so this is from a friend asking for a Christian-minded friend. Is it possible to be morally pro-life but politically pro-choice?
Is it possible to be morally pro-life?
Correct.
And politically pro-choice?
Yes.
I think it must be possible because I know a lot of Christians, not just Christian-minded people, but Christian people who land there. My sense of that question would be to say, this individual would say, I believe abortion's wrong, but I'm okay voting for someone who is pro-choice. And I think, honestly, the pro-choice agenda really is a pro-abortion agenda. What's hard about even the term pro-life is if we really think about what's pro-life, it is broader. So I can totally see someone who would say, you know what, because I'm pro-life, personally, I could never vote for someone who's pro-life or who's not pro-life politically. I think that's probably where a lot of Christians, especially a lot of Christians in our church, would land. But I know faithful Christians who say, you know what, I think about these other issues that impact life, and I want to go that direction. So I like the question. Is it possible? Sure. Is it recommended? I wouldn't recommend that, but I don't have a verse for that. So.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, one more question for you, if we have time. Okay. So if a lot of us think that we're in the middle, right? You talked about how we can sometimes be too far critical or too far accepting. And if we're in the middle, how do we see kind of how can we know if we actually are leaning too far on one side or the other? Because everyone would probably think like, oh, I'm in the middle. I know who my critical and accepting friends are. So
that's a really great question, because I think most of us assume there's extremists and we're not them.
Yeah.
And so I think, again, it would be relationships. It would be having relationships where people would go, hey, I see you compromising here, or I see you angry here. That would maybe be part of it. I think some of it is, are there, whatever the issue is, are there people on both sides of it that would disagree with how you're holding it? And if the answer is no, that you're only ever critiqued by one side of it, maybe you've gone too far that direction. But I don't know. I think that's a really self-aware question.
Yeah. So. Well, and it's probably what you said even earlier of like having relationship, being in community to try to pinpoint those areas in your life as well. Yeah. So
great.
Well, I think we have time for one more.
Okay.
So
that's what you said last time.
I know
but
we'll do one more. Great. I know we're gonna do one more.
Okay.
Because you asked so many good questions. If we can fit one more, it's
great. Way to go.
Okay, so if I feel like I'm really wanting to come to church, and you're talking on all of the things that I'm kind of wanting to escape from, how do I navigate that?
Yeah, I think there are people that feel like that. I've talked to people who feel like that. feel like, man, I want church to be a break.
Yeah.
What I would say is the thing you see on all our T-shirts and all our everything is all of life is all for Jesus. And so I don't want to drag anybody through the mud of all the junk in the world any more than anyone else. But I do feel like we have a responsibility, if we're going to love well in this world, to go, I'm not just going to talk about otherworldly stuff, but I'm going to talk about how the reality of the kingdom of Jesus impacts this world and impacts our living. So I get that can feel tiring and that can be discouraging. But if you like the idea that all of life is all for Jesus, then you should be willing to lean into that discomfort, even at church.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Awesome. Well, thank
Great.
you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for watching today,
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah, we love you and we miss you. And please, as Alessi said earlier, let us know how we can be praying for you and connected with you.
Yes.
And we'll see you soon.
Yes. Bye. Bye, Redemption Gateway.